All right, so here we got some central tendencies that we can calculate. The three main ones are the mean, the median, and the mode. So the mean is just your average. That's your average, just straight up. So all we would do in that case to find an average of anything is add up all the scores and then divide by how many there are. So for our mean here, we've got 11 scores. Yeah, 11 scores. And we add those all up, 38, 46, 56, all the way up to 100. I believe we get 800. Divide by the number of scores. I said there's 11, so this is your mean. And that would come out to an average of 72.73%. Okay, so again, your mean is just your average. So you add up all your scores, divide by the number of them. Now we're going to talk later about the trimmed mean. And then there's another one, a weighted mean, but I'll do that in a separate question on the other page. So we're going to do a weighted mean as well. But it doesn't really lend itself to these numbers. Okay, so that's the mean. The median is just your middle number. When all your numbers are in order, and I always say from smallest to largest. I'm sure there'd be somebody who would argue from largest to smallest. It doesn't matter. It ends up the same thing anyways. So your median, in this case, because we've got 11 numbers, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from one side, and then the sixth one is going to be my middle number, and you can see me circled there, 74. So that's how simple the median is. Now, if you had an even number of data, let's say I'm going to come down here and I'll do a median where there's an even number. So let's say we had 2, 4, 6, 8. So now that you got four sets of data, there is no middle, essentially, middle number. So what you do is you actually have to find the average of your two middle ones. You have to take these two, 4 plus 6, divided by 2, like that. And 5 would be considered your median. So if you've got an odd number of scores, like our example, we've got 11, we can just find the middle number. If we have an even number of scores, like this one down here, we have to find the average of the two middle ones. Okay. Now for the mode, that's the number that appears the most often. So again, in this same question that we're doing, you can see that there's two 74s, and there's not multiple. You can have multiple modes if you've got the same number of numbers. Like for instance, if we had another 56 in that question, you could say the modes are 74 and 56. But in this one, that's pretty much it. Okay, trimmed mean is kind of exactly what it says, is we're going to trim some stuff. And in most cases, when you trim a mean, you take the lowest score, in this case is 38, and the highest score and remove it from your total. So in this case, we get 800 minus 100, which is the highest, minus 38. And now we've only got 9 scores, so we recalculate the average by dividing by 9, and you can see that we get an average of 73.56%, which some people would argue is a better average because it's closer to your median, close to your mode, because those numbers, to be normally distributed, and that's something we don't really talk about, they would have to be all the same. There's other ways that you can do a trim mean. Some people would say that you just trim the outlier. So if you had a weird score like a 12 in that data, that's way too low compared to everything else. Everything else sort of lines up. It's pretty good. But that 12 would be what's an outlier. So you could just take, say, the lowest score, just the highest score. It depends on the question, okay? I wouldn't stress that too much because the question tells you, calculate the trim mean by removing the highest and lowest, or just the lowest, vice versa, okay? So I hope those four things, the mean, just the average, the median, the middle number, and the mode, the number that appears the most often, and then the trimmed mean, like I said, depends on the question. In this one, I took the highest and the lowest out, and then redid the average, and there's a trim mean, okay? I hope that all makes sense.